The time we have been waiting for has finally arrived. Q4 2025, the end of the year on the 4-year cycle, and typically where the peak of the market happens. And on day one of October, we see Bitcoin up 3%, a very nice start to Q4. So in this video, I'm going to go over my outlook on the next couple of months, my strategy, when I'm going to start taking profits out of the market, why this run could last a little longer than previous bull runs, as well as the tokens that I am accumulating at this point in time. So you don't want to miss the alpha in this video. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Before we dive into it, guys, be sure to drop down below, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel for more every single day and every week here on In the Game. We have you covered top to bottom with all the info that you need to win throughout this bull run. And of course, a big shout out to our sponsors here on the channel. We have some incredible sponsors from Blowfin, 𝗪𝗏𝗪, as well as Nexus Labs, the product we use here every day on the shows, as well as 𝗕𝗟𝗏. And I want to give a big shout out to Blowfin. First and foremost, you need to find a trusted centralized exchange that you can trade on consistently, easy in, easy out, and also that accepts any jurisdiction. If you're in the USA, this is definitely a match made in heaven as far as a centralized exchange for you to trade on. They're giving away tons of bonus money at the link down below in my description. You can check out Blowfin using the link down below. Let's go ahead and jump into it, guys, as October is off to a good start. Look, we're up 3.75% on the weekly now, 3% move today on Bitcoin up to 117K. And look, I think that all-time highs are probably going to get smashed in the coming weeks, and I'll go over my thesis on that here in just a second. But we have to remember Bitcoin all-time highs are just $124,000. Right now, Bitcoin dominance at about 58%. But right now, the total market cap just crossed back over $4 trillion, as we see here, total crypto market reclaiming that $4 trillion mark. And this is the time that everyone's been waiting for, really, for 4 years. At the end of the day, we know these 4-year cycles happen, you know, pretty, I don't want to say cyclically, that's like a very cliche, as we call it, a crypto cycle, but they're pretty much rinse and repeat over the course of crypto's history. But I do think we might see a little bit of a change of course at how aggressive and also how long this Q4 run does play out. So it is definitely time, as the thumbnail of this video says, to lock into the market. And I saw a lot of people this morning that were worried about the government shutdown, but as 𝗕𝗏𝗁𝗃𝗏 says here, government shutdown is actually bullish because in the future the government will reopen and we have to price that in. People are going to be bullish about that whenever that does happen, but also the government reopening also bullish because the government is open and spending goes back to normal. And I do think that we have to set our expectations a little differently. Look, people have PTSD from the last cycle, so they're very overly cautious. And that's why when we see big runners in the market, a lot of the time people sell early. They don't want to take too much risk because they don't want to be caught holding the bag, like what happened in 2021. The people who, you know, held positions too long, they have PTSD from that. And that's exactly a recipe for a bigger and longer lasting cycle than we have seen in the past. And with all the institutional interest coming into the space, we see Bloomberg saying that Vanguard is considering crypto. Vanguard is the king of, you know, I would say ETFs, like REITs, all the common investment funds that people put their 401ks into. A lot of those funds are ran on Vanguard, and it is hilarious. Once again, we talk about the mood swings of the market all the time on this show, fear and greed index, etc. I guess it's not a bear market, right? We were in a bear market last week, and now we're in Uptober. So this is why I always say you have to look at the bigger picture, and you have to look at the data. And as CZ says, I just thought this was absolutely hilarious. He says, not predicting the future, and don't get too excited, but September in my first crypto cycle. Now, this is just data, but we of course went from 4K Bitcoin back in 2017 all the way up to $17,000 Bitcoin at that point in time. And I kind of quote tweeted it, but you know, my spidey senses are tingling. I do feel very good about this month. We're going to get a rate cut. I do feel like this government closure is actually a good thing. We're going to price in the reopening, and then then from there, spending begins, like 𝗕𝗟𝗄𝗁 mentioned. So to me, this is a perfect recipe for another Uptober. We've had 8 of the last 10 years green in the month of October. So let's just, as far as Uptober, let's call it Pumptober, all right? And we look across the market right now. We can filter on the daily. We do see some big winners. First and foremost, shout out to anyone who got involved on those lows from Monday's show on 𝗪𝗺𝗃. This thing is crushing this week, and that catch-up trade to Swissborg is definitely playing out. I have some big catalysts that I've been told behind the scenes coming as well from 𝗪𝗺𝗃. We know that they're about to start doing buybacks according to their revenue. So once revenue eclipses a certain percentage, they're going to start deploying buybacks on the chart. And this thing's up 74% this week, really since that 7-cent mark that we mentioned on the Monday show. So this has been a big winner. We see Pengu up 15% on the daily. We see Altura up 38% on the daily. Aether up 10%, 𝗬𝗎 up 9%. So we're starting to see a little momentum. And I really do think if Bitcoin and Ethereum continue to climb towards new all-time highs and surpass those, we're finally going to get that long-awaited alt season that we have been waiting for. And look, it's been tough. We've been on this journey for quite some time now. And the time periods between the 4-year cycles, so much happens, right? From 2022, the Celsius FTX dilemmas. From 2023, the big AI bubble. AI tokens went crazy. We had a few gaming runs during that year. This last year, obviously, meme coin season really took over from back half of 2024 all the way to Trump token. And then right now, we are seeing the revenue/buyback meta, which is really where a lot of my dollars are focused right now. I'm looking at chains and protocols that are making money. So let's go ahead and roll through which tokens I am looking at right now to play out first, and then we rotate into other narratives. Now, I want to make a little bit of a kind of an example of how I would be structuring your portfolio and how I'm structuring my portfolio at this point in time. And there's a reason I am a YouTuber and a project founder and not an artist. But here is the way that I would be thinking about your portfolio heading into this month and also into November, where last year November really provided a ton of upside, but marked the top of the 2021 bull cycle. So let's just take a look at this. And when I'm talking about a barbell on your portfolio, here's what I mean. So utility, you're going to want a lot of your portfolio in utility. And if you noticed, I put 2 plates on each side, and I'll go over that in a second. You want to capitalize on the utility meta, so I'm going to underline that here. In the utility coins, I mean stuff like Solana, Hyperliquid, Avalanche, 𝗬𝗎, Aster, etc. Those base level tokens, right? The ones that are going to really succeed, probably have their seasonal runs, pump, and then you can move that money into take profits and keep those on the side, but also be able to rotate throughout these narratives. But you're going to want to be exposed to a few of these different niches. Some of these niches in this big part of the barbell here, this one here, this is going to be the majority. It's the heavier plate on that side of the barbell. You're going to be wanting on L1s. I'm talking, like I said, 𝗬𝗎, Avalanche, etc. AI, 𝗬𝗨, those types of tokens. The ones that if AI really has a pump again, you're going to have major exposure through strong coins, the heavyweight coins like a 𝗬𝗨, perps dexes, obviously Aster, Hyperliquid, buybacks, this stuff like pump, like Hyperliquid, like Aster, even stuff that we're going to talk about here on the hype side in just a second. And then on that lower end of the barbell, which is going to be lower market cap projects, you're going to still want to look on this type of a narrative, but you're also going to want to look at lower market cap stuff that could provide much higher upside. For this, I'm talking about stuff like Avantis, maybe the base perp dex, right? It's not a premier product. I would not call that the heavyweight at this point in time. But you could definitely term that in that smaller bucket. Stuff like 𝗂𝗂, right? I think that 𝗂𝗂 is still, it's a $200 million market cap. I think it is probably on the smaller weight side of the barbell. And as we see here right now, it did have that sell the news. Crypto traders want that instant gratification. They don't connect the dots. The 𝗂𝗂 Swift code, the Nielsen report, the Google connections, the fundamentals eventually get priced in, and the patience will pay on 𝗂𝗂. So the smaller weight on the barbell, you could, throw some projects in there. like KTA, like some stuff like even Ronin. Like Ronin's about to start their buyback, so that fits on the gaming side and the also buybacks meta. Stuff like 𝗪𝗺𝗃, right? 𝗪𝗺𝗃 is on the buyback train, and they're a utility project that you could throw in also on this smaller weight side of the barbell. So make sure you're heavier weighted into these types of tokens that are going to provide, I'm not going to say guaranteed upside, but much less downside and are almost more sure bets. But then these ones here, if these start hitting those 5, 10x's over the course of this cycle, that smaller weight side of the utility is going to pay off very well. But moving over to the hype side, okay? Now, the hype side is stuff that comes to the market, okay, like XPL, Plasma, right? This is a short-term trade. So you're going to want smaller liquidity on this side, and you're going to want to keep, hype tokens. And what I mean by this is stuff with attention, okay? I mean stuff maybe like a 𝗵𝗄, right? 𝗵𝗄 is capturing so much attention on the timeline. Pudgy Penguins is the biggest NFT collection. This is a hype token, right? You're getting in on a community play that has a ton of visibility. If Abstract has their TGE, this is going to do very well. It's going to pump into it. I 100% believe that. That's an example of a hype token. An example of a hype token even is when something comes to the market like XPL and everyone gets in on it. Aster, everyone gets in on it, right? It's the talk of the timeline. You're going to want to leave space for these types of plays. When you see Aster at the second, number 2 in revenue over the course of a 24-hour period, we see they already have 73% of the total holders that hype has. That is huge, right? So for me, that's the type of projects you want to throw in on this hype side. And some gaming projects could fall into this hype as well if you do see a gaming run. But you could also term in some different meme coins here. Maybe you want exposure to the base chain if they do an airdrop. So you could throw in Brett. Maybe you want exposure to something like a MOG, which is a top meme coin as well. Hype coins are going to be the memes, the things that come, have huge runs, and then kind of simmer down. And that's where you want to have some capital where you can run it up, but also not enough capital that if some of these do kind of, filter out, you aren't going to get burned so much because you've weighted a lot of your portfolio here on the barbell side. But these attention and hype trades tend to almost pay more, but these are going to be more actively managed positions. You're going to want to swing trade these more than the utility stuff, which you're just holding through the cycle, and then you're really just ready for this upside from October to November. Now, what is my outlook on when I'm going to start taking profits? So let's just take a look. We see Bitcoin at 117. All-time highs are at 124. Usually, Bitcoin over the last few cycles has put in double digits, 30% gains over the course of October. And if we were to even see half of that, okay, we would probably be seeing about $132,000 on the chart here. That probably pins Ethereum well above $5,000. We would probably see XRP up there. We would see, BNB at $1,300, $1,400. This would stimulate a lot of these different altcoins. And really the one thing I'm going to say is that profit taking video I made a few weeks ago, that just stands true, right? On a hype trade like Aster, let's just say. So Aster was definitely one of these hype cycle trades. You keep some stables on the sideline. You'd be able to get in on these and trade these on the short term. We got in at 20 cents. We gave it to you here at 30 cents about an hour later. That 10x, right? So I've taken profit. So I have a moon bag in that. If it continues to go up throughout the cycle, that's going to be a big win for me. And I think $3, $4 is absolutely possible once they announce buybacks and once they get on the actual Binance exchange. So this is how I'm thinking about my portfolio. But if things start doing 3x's, 5x's, 10x's, I will be actively taking profits, as I've done on coins like Aster or on short-term trades on leverage like XPL. But these ones, the Kitas, the Ronins, the 𝗪𝗺𝗃s, my L1s, my AI plays, the buyback plays, I'm holding those for the long term. I think that those are going to play out very well throughout this bull run, and I will be actively taking profits, and I will let you guys know whenever I do think it is the time to start taking profits in this market. But look, this is the time we've been waiting for so long, okay? So what I'm trying to get at here is have a strategy. This is the way I'm looking at it, okay? I have my hype side and I have my utility, and I'm going to invest very differently between these two niches. However, I think that if you play this right, you can get some almost surefire upside from this utility side, and then on the other end of the spectrum, that hype side could even pay more, but like I said, it's going to be much riskier, and you're going to want to actively manage that capital much more closely. So that's the way I'm playing right now. I do think Uptober is about to be historical, and I do think this next couple of months in crypto is going to be that time we've all been waiting for, and I don't think it's going to disappoint. Now, what coins are you looking at, and are you as bullish as I am heading into the back half of this year? History doesn't repeat itself, but it does often rhyme. With the government reopening eventually, with potentially more stuff like Vanguard coming into the space, the attention on crypto, more absolutely killer launches like Plasma and Aster, the crypto space is just going to get frothier and frothier, and we are still here early when it comes to altcoins. So let me know what you're accumulating. If you're bullish, are you bearish for some reason? Do you think this time's going to be different? Do you think it's going to go longer? Do you think there is no alt season? I'd love to have some discourse in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys on the next one. As always, like the video, subscribe down below, play well, my friends, trade responsibly, and of course, stay bullish, my friends.